word in terms of your expectation for this coming session. Just a random word, one word of what you expect of this next session. Make it innovative, Mheshimiwa. You'll be penalized if you don't play it at that level.
A proper understanding of SDGs. SDGs.
Okay. Should he get away with that? We can let him go, but you're still dancing. My co-moderator is here. One word. Be creative.
Equality.
So we will call her Miss Equality, all right?
Education.
Education, all right? Rina?
Empowerment.
Empowerment, all right? You want us to do another round? Yeah, let's let them dance, Kwanzaa. You have to bounce a little bit. Everyone? Let's go. You turn a little bit. Let's go down. Hey. Shake your head a bit. Everyone. Wewe unakuja hapa kudance wewe. Wewe mwenye unashika mkono. Let's go. I'm not seeing you dance, bro. Mheshimiwa. Twende. Up. Down. Up again. Down. Up. Down. All right. Allah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank
you so much, Anthony, and thank you, Imelda and Anthony, for partnering up on co-creating this session. So again, I'm Kirsten Brosbøl from 2030 Beyond, a Danish NGO working with SDGs, and we have happily worked with these guys for years now, and are so glad to be back here in the SDGs village. And as Anthony said, what we're going to do here is really turn our eyes away from this panel stage to you guys. Basically, you are going to be the panel now, and the VIPs are going to be listening to what you have to say, because we called this session Pact for the Future Youth Dialogue, and what we really want to do here is walk the talk and make sure that we hear from all of you your reflections on the Pact for the Future. And for those of you who might be new to this agenda, we had a question from the gentleman here earlier today about the Pact for the Future, because it is really a big deal. Maybe if you didn't hear about it, it's really where all the member states of the United Nations back in September 2024 came together and reconfirmed their support and commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals. Point of action number 1 in the Pact for the Future is accelerating action for the SDGs. So all of the 193 countries of the UN said once again, almost 10 years in the 2030 agenda, that we are going to do everything in our powers to make sure that we reach the SDGs in 2030. So we have a recommitment from state leaders, from our political leaders, that they will do all of it in their power. What was also new with the Pact for the Future was that for the first time it addresses very systematically youth empowerment and engagement, a focus on youth and children and the importance of making sure their voices are heard in this process. Not only that, but also future generations, which means those that are not even born yet. So this is a big challenge for politicians, and I'm so glad that you, Honorable Ochanda, has joined us today, because you are in a position in the Parliament of Kenya, chairing the SDG Caucus, where you really need also, I think, this input from people. How do they expect you in Parliament to work with this Pact for the Future and really make sure that in our policy design, in our policy development, we address also the needs of children and youth and future generation. That means for us politicians, sometimes it's a challenge to take a long-term view, right? It's not just up until next election. It's really to take the binoculars and look, far ahead in the future and make sure that we take that perspective. So that's what this session is all about. And as Anthony said, we are going to make use it and discuss in thematic groups in a minute. But first, I want to give the opportunity to Honorable Ochanda from the Parliament SDG Caucus to say a few introductory remarks about how he sees this pact for the future, hopefully as an accelerator, as an opportunity for your caucus, your members, to again push the SDGs through in Parliament and make sure that it's a priority. So please, Honourable, the floor is yours.
Now, I chair SDGs Caucus in Parliament. When we talk about a caucus in Parliament, it's basically an interest group. We have in Parliament formal groupings in terms of committees, and Parliament basically runs through committees. What we normally see as the plenary of Parliament many times is basically for the show, but the real work is at the committees. Those are what we call the formal committees of the House. Some are departmental, some we call select, basically for purpose of oversight. But then there is a space for members to get themselves into certain interests. It is those interests that we get to identify with. And for example, now we have what we call the SDGs Caucus. We've had it over a period of time. It's basically a conglomeration of minds and heads of members who are focused on the direction of the SDGs. Their interest is really on SDGs. We have other caucuses in the House. Some are economic, whether they are tea, caucuses, coffee. We have those kind of caucuses in the House, but they are fairly informal. But the rules of the House allows them to exist. So for purpose of the SDGs, our focus is more in terms of the direction of the SDGs, the development of the SDGs over a period of time, and the worry of achieving SDGs by the time that is indicated. We've moved the timelines for a while. We have a new timeline, and the new timeline is slightly very close to us. And then that's exactly why they worry. What is it that we need to do to accelerate the issue of SDGs? So like as I mentioned, I'm told about the young people. Basically, the young people's interest in politics. Politics is very dynamic, very, very dynamic. Sometimes what we practice in this country is not necessarily what is practiced elsewhere, but all of them are politics. Yeah. So I want to believe that there's quite a bit of issues that are going to be emerging from you in the name of either there are questions that you want us to address or you want us to look at. But definitely there are serious challenges in terms of the young people in politics. Young people in politics is really something that needs to be focused on. And more so when we are talking about sustainability. You can't be talking about sustainability if you are leaving behind young people. You can't be talking about sustainability if you are not focusing on those who are supposed to carry the agenda forward. That's one thing. But the other one is we many times look at SDGs as a one thing. If we make the mistake of looking at SDGs as one thing, many chances are that you'll never understand it very well. The best thing is to disintegrate the SDGs, and that's exactly why we have the goals. You may realize that in this country, if you look at all those goals one by one, we normally have the assessment in terms of how is it, how are we performing, how are we performing as a country. Then many times you see exactly that you may be understanding if it's about issues of water. You know, if you're looking at SDGs in totality, sometimes you miss out in many things. But isolate each goal and focus on what is it that's happening with, particularly what now you people are discussing about employment. And that issue of employment is why we have in us, or what we are doing, SDGs plus business. In fact, we call ourselves SDGs Caucus and business. Because the main player, many times the main player, the solid player are governments. That's the main solid player that we see. But beyond that, the business, the private sector, does a lot, in fact, much more than the government. If you look at the issue of employment, our public service or the government employs under 700,000 people, under 700,000. Whether they are teachers, the police, the military, and all that, all put together doesn't go beyond 700,000 people. And when we're talking about 700,000 people in public service, look at what the universities are churning out each year. Each year we are giving out, I want to believe, close to 100,000+ graduates every year. New people getting into the market. So you get 100,000 getting into the market, you have 700,000 seated on the jobs. Where do the 100 get jobs from? You look at attrition is below 5%. You look at all these things. We hardly lose 10,000 people in a year in public service. So if you hardly lose 10,000 and you have 100,000 entrants, definitely that's a big challenge that has to be looked at. And that's one thing that when we are talking about the issue of employment, we must look at it seriously. And private sector is the key. While 700,000 are in public service, we estimate the formal private sector to be having close to 5 million employees. 5 million. So private sector is like 6-7 times bigger employer than the government, in as much as the government is the main single employer. So these are challenges that we have to live with, and the most critical part of it is the dynamics of politics. How do we get our politics to address these kind of issues that are facing us? How do we look at them? That's exactly why I'm here. Maybe we'll be raising a lot of issues. How does politics play a role in terms of issues of employment? Then what is it that you need to do as a young person if you are to shape things? What is it that you are able to do? How do you get into to politics in this country as a young person? So I want to believe that I want to leave it at that point, such that, as has been said, a lot more is going to come from you. And if there are questions, I'll look at them as and when they arise. Thank you.
The panel will not be here. The panel will be where you are, so that the conversation is personalized, and we'll make it very exciting. I want to honor Honorable Shakil. But before you say anything, Madam Gloria, because I want to also make sure you are here, just come say a word for 30 seconds. Gloria is the CEO of our youth, National Youth Council.
I have been ambushed. Vijana oya. Mko. Nipeni mbwekse. Thank you very much. Mimi naitwa Gloria. I am the CEO of the National Youth Council. The National Youth Council is committed to amplifying youth voices. Kama unaona ile mbogi iko pale juu, kuna bamba kule. That's the youth village. Please meet us there and interact with us. But thank you so much, Buluma and partners, for having us at the SDG village. Mji enjoy.
Thank you, Gloria. Mheshimiwa Shakil, in a moment. I know a lot of the talking will be done in the groups, but you can say jambo. And thank you for honoring the invitation.
Thank you. My name is Shakil Shabir, a member of parliament for Kisumu East. I have the honor of being I've been here in the 4th term, 2 terms as independent, 2 terms with ODM. And when you said 21, you'll have to add 50 to it. I'm actually, coming this October, I'll be 71 years old. It's been an honor to serve. I was the mayor of Kisumu East, Kisumu City for 2 terms, 2000 to 2004, and then an MP from 2007. I lead a caucus which is one of the oldest caucuses in Parliament, and it's called APNAC, the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption. This was set up in 1999 together with the TI, and our founding member was Muskari Kombo. He's still our guide and our guru in this issue. The African Parliamentarians Against Corruption, our job is to bring the issues of corruption within Parliament in a way and a manner that we are trying to promote transparency within us, our parliamentarians, and bring some sort of an air of acceptability and a recognition of responsibility within parliamentarians. We are, of course, we are whistleblowers and whatever, but what we do not do is go and actively try to follow the corruption. That EACC has got to do. Ours is to bring it to notice. Really, we work with civil society very closely. The Civil Society Parliamentary Engagement Network is called CESPEN. We work with the TI and many of the civil society network and give them a platform to work with us as parliamentarians. So if you as a civil society want to address parliamentarians in a particular committee, you have to go to the speaker has to go to the chairman of the committee and whatever, and they might call you for 5 minutes at the end of a meeting. But we suspend. If you're with SESPEN and you're with APNAC, Mheshimiwa is member of APNAC, so are many others. We have an understanding and an agreement that we as APNAC can seek audience with any member of any committee, just so that I can write to them and get audience with them. One of the things we are doing right now, when you say APNAC, you have to understand what we're doing. We have also, APNAC has a very good standing in the global network. I'm also on the board of the global network. It's called GOPAC. But APNAC is one of the leading members of that. We have recognition at the United Nations, OECD, and many such institutions. Recognition means that we do not have to go with the Kenyan delegation. We're invited directly. I was talking just now with the SG of UDA, Omar Hassan, and we were saying that we need to have a dialogue with them on conflict of interest. There are many issues that we work on, and we work on them in a manner that we can make a change. Open governance, corruption issues, conflict of interest, and I particularly, this is not the first People's Dialogue I've come to. I think we've been to 3. One was in the museum, and one was in the Nairobi University.
Thank you. Can I encourage you to keep it brief, because we want to move to the workshop. Thank you.
I have finished. So that's what we are doing. And youth for empowerment, I think you are the future of this country, and we want to try and get over and get into a working dialogue with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Shakil. Please, let's appreciate him. So, like I said, with my co-moderator, by the way, Kasted is a former minister with the Danish government. So, she's a serious politician. So, Simone hivi. So, we will put you into groups. She's going to read out some of the topics that we are discussing so that you can feel free to locate the question that you want to address. Inside each topic, we have a guide in terms of the questions that you'll be tackling. Because at the end of the day, we want a dialogue that is moving towards action. So, Karsten?
The groups will be addressing, the first group is on accelerating action for the 2030 agenda, so the overall SDGs in Kenya. The second group is youth participation in decision making. The third group is employment and economic opportunity, and I heard the question we had in the previous session about youth, unemployed youth, so there's an opportunity for you guys. The fourth group is on climate and environmental sustainability, and the fifth group will be on future generations. As I said, there's a whole new contract with future generations in the Pact for the Future, so an opportunity to discuss how do politicians address that issue. So, what is going to happen now is that, as I said, we're going to let you self-organize. So, Anthony, if I can ask you to take these.
Okay.
And so the first group is accelerating action for the SDGs. Can you find that one? And then the first group will sit over here. So who would like to champion that group, go over here, please.
Discussion we were having is accelerating action for the 2030 agenda, and the first question was, what are the main obstacles / enablers to achieve the SDGs in Kenya 2030? And in brief, these are the obstacles we discussed. We have the lack of adequate resource mobilization. Do I need to explain or just go through them?
You only have 2 minutes, so
Lack
it's going to be
of
brief.
adequate resource mobilization. We have SDG awareness sensitization, which is, then we have inadequate partnership, where we have fewer players. The solutions, lack of political commitment and intent. Then cultural impediments and data accountability. The solutions we gave to accelerate the actions towards these SDGs are need for coordination and structured engagement. We need more awareness, need more partnerships. We need to incorporate the SDGs to the education system. We need to restructure the budgeting process to inform focused budget on SDGs. Sensitization to the public and inform them more about the SDGs. Then the recommendations we are giving to the Member of Parliament and the county assemblies are to every Member of Parliament and every Member of County Assembly to individually champion for SDGs in their respective wards and constituencies, to integrate SDGs to the education system, to align each committee, because we have several committees in the county assemblies and several committees in the National Assembly, so that each committee can be aligned with a specific SDG, so that we can able to achieve all the goals, the goals. Also, is to have SDG focused policies. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Velan. I come from Community Education and Empowerment Center, and I'm glad to be here. So this is what we were able to capture as Group 2. So according to our first question, the role of young people participating in national policy. So what we were able to come out as the impediment is that the young people are not able to participate fully in the national policies because the lack of awareness. They're not aware of how these policy formulations and decision-making happens. So that was what we were able to find out, or to discuss rather. So, and then another issue that also came out is that that there is a need for the young people to be involved in decision-making. And this can only happen through raising awareness, whereby they can be able to be grounded on the needs, why they need to actively participate by knowing their civic and political rights. Then our second question, how can decision makers include youth and marginalized groups in decision making? So this one can be done by opening up governance spaces. And this one can happen by just trying to educate, because in most cases, the young people are not able to know how this process takes place. So through raising awareness, they will be able to know how they can effectively participate in the decision making. Then another reason why the youth are not able to actually participate in the decision making, it's because of the high cost of politics. You know, I'm sure most of us are very conversant when it comes to our politics. it's very expensive, and you know, being a young person, we lack the financial muscle to actively participate. So it's one of the areas that blocks us to effectively participate in the decision making. Then another reason is the stereotypes. You know, we are told that we are the leaders of tomorrow. When are we going to be given that opportunity for us now to lead? So,
Any recommendations?
So one of our recommendations is that there is need to revise and come up with a policy on public participation whereby it stipulates the threshold. How many people, how many young people are supposed to attend when we have those meetings or engagements? What is the percentage of the women? What is the percentage of the young people? And lastly, the need for civic education, just to raise awareness on the importance of why young people should actually participate in the decision-making process. Thank you.
We are Group 3. We are given the momentous task of discussing employment and economic opportunities, with their guiding questions were the challenges that young people face when entering the labor market, the policies which better support the youth in accessing finance, partnership skills, training, youth entrepreneurship, what ways digital skills and technology play a role in expanding employment opportunities, and key recommendations which can ensure that young Kenyans have access to decent work and fair wages. So we deliberated that there is a mismatch between the skills which are being taught in our schools and the skills which are required in the job market, and thereby there is a need for the people who already completed school in the previous curriculum to upskill at their own capacity or in any other kind of capacity, where they should now adapt to the skills which are needed for survival in this age. An example of skills which were given are IT-based skills and other self-help skills like hairdressing, carpentry, which youth around the world can use to survive in this world, which is, in a way or another, quite different from the world we used to live in not so long ago. We also need, this now fell to leaders, we need to push them, and they also need to create policies about a kind of a succession plan, because they have created policies to increase the quality of education, so that we have many improved enrollment of youth in schools. The education is quite affordable, but now they need to have foresight, because these initiatives that they have built now will lead to an overcrowding in graduates. So they need to create a succession plan. Where will these graduates go? 5, 6 years, 10 years down the line, what will they be doing? How will they be able to support themselves? So they need to have a discussion and create a succession plan. There was also a very strong feeling that we need to revive our industrial economy, because currently someone in our group noted that we are living in a consumption economy, and we need to shift this focus into a production economy so that we can employ ourselves. And because, for example, someone gave the example that a company which specializes in creating, in doing a certain thing, does not just employ those technocrats who pursue that line of work. It also needs cooks, it also needs security personnel, it also needs secretaries, it also needs... So if we revive these industries, they will create an all-round web of employment and benefit the community around them. There was
Any final recommendations?
There was also a strong feeling that we need to restrict the import and export sector. We need to incentivize for the things which we cannot manufacture locally. We need to incentivize that they be processed locally, or at least produced locally, so we can learn. And then we stop exporting raw materials, we incentivize processing these raw materials here locally, so that we stop importing finished products made from goods we ourselves created. So this is going to stabilize our economy.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
My name is Awinja Ouma, environmental student in JKUAT. I'm representing Group 4. We were dealing with climate and environmental sustainability. The first question is, how are young Kenyans experiencing the impact of climate change, and what role can they play in shaping climate policies? So, the young people are affected by climate change in agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of Kenya, and in this way, they're affected through drought and food shortage. Also, they are affected by water shortage. Young people are affected also through drought. Let me explain that. Young school children and the youth are mostly affected by drought. You can observe from the previous drought that occurred. Young people are also affected by in economic facilities. They are unable to access finance. Therefore, they cannot grow financially. Also, climate change, it accelerates poverty, leading to early marriage, more so in northern Kenyas. The second part of the question is, how can we tackle this as young people? CBOs, community-based organizations, can create climatic empowerment forum. Example, in tree planting, to plant trees in areas affected by drought, northern Kenya, again. Young people can attend county integrated plan to give their input on climate issues, like a forum like this one. They can also grow up, they can also, okay, I'm gonna move to the second question.
Maybe to the recommendations?
To the recommendations, the CBOs can organize climate empowerment forum, like tree planting. The country can also organize climate awareness for young children, and they grow up knowing about climate issues and advocate for sustainable agriculture, like the use of non-synthetic materials that does not affect the environment. In question 2, what can decision makers do to ensure young people are included in climate action processes at local, national, and international level? They can create awareness on climate issues and creating a platform where young people can air their concern about climate issues, creating policies that include the views of the young people, also showcasing innovation as a way that youth can enhance policies. The third question, what are 3 key recommendations to strengthen youth-led solutions for environmental sustainability? 1, supporting innovation to enable environmental sustainability. 2, promoting modern agriculture, for example, the use of hydroponic that does not affect the environment. The third one, and the last one, integrating climate issues to be included in the curriculum. For example, we can have a subject like environmental subject, where young people can learn about the environment at a young age, and when they are done with their primary and tertiary education, they can major on climate issues. Yeah, thank you.
How can young people and current leaders collaborate to ensure that policies address both today's challenges and the needs of future generation? So in this, we looked at the ideas of how we can bring together both the generations. First thing, we talked of intergeneration dialogue platforms. For example, we had discussion platforms by the president in town halls, seminars and conferences, where we bring all these generations together to forge a future. And then number 2, we also talked about constructive conversations on existing policies. So as there's policies that integrate both the gaps between the generations. And then the second question was, what steps can be taken to encourage intergeneration dialogue in decision-making processes? So first thing, we acknowledge the barriers that exist within our local communities, where some instances, young people are not allowed even to talk in front of the elders. So number 1, we have to address such issues like the societal barriers between the old and the young people. And then we also talked of the localization of the engagement. On the localization of an engagement, we looked at a factor like during the Gen Z turmoil, if the Gen Z could not explain the policies the government wanted to implement in their local languages, the older generation was like, these people are just defiant to the government. So if we localize these discussions that we have like in our local language, we interpret them in the local language that the old people can understand, and then we have a policy that can work for both of us. And then the last question, 3 key recommendations that we can use to protect interests and rights of future generation. First thing, we have to address the issue of access to education by all, putting in mind in this country, we have parts of this country that education is not going on because of, somebody talked of the drought, insecurity issues, the bandits and the rest. There's no access of education. Second thing, also talked of implementation of existing policies. And one of the outstanding issue one of us raised was, as we see it now, the Ministry for Gender is still open since they reshuffled the cabinet. So it's still a challenge as we speak now. And then the last thing was promoting, enriching the existing curriculum. So as we have issues like civic education, human rights being addressed from early childhood in our education system. Thank you.
I want to invite Honorable Achanda to respond to what you've heard today, because you've had input on various issues here that, and the idea was to give these young people opportunities to give inputs directly to you and your colleagues. So I want to hear your reflections, also your experience of being part of a co-creation session. So this was actually youth engagement in action, guys. So this is a way to do it, right?
One critical thing that I may need to respond to is the request or the call that youths want to be given an opportunity, particularly in the political direction. I want to be very honest with you. You are not going to be given. You'll not be given. You must get out, run out, and pick it. Nobody will give you. If you give these guys the opportunity, they'll be there forever. They'll never give that opportunity to you. So young people, take this very seriously and check. If you want to participate in the political directions of the country, where do you need to start from? That should be a very first question. Where do you need to start from? We do have, and there's an array of them, political parties here. The best way for purpose of involvement is to start with the political parties. For you to play in our politics, you must be in some political party in one way or the other. Check. There are many times that these political parties do their elections. How many young people participate at the very lowest level of political party participation or political party elections? If you don't start from that, nobody will give you that opportunity. Please get out. Get to identify exactly the potential entry points and identify yourselves, rally yourselves, and make sure you participate at that particular level. If you don't, nobody will give you that space. And I want to repeat that. Nobody will give you that space. That now come in or I'm handing over. I think that's not going to have to be there. The people we have, if you give them the opportunity, they'll be there forever. Yeah? They'll be there forever until I don't know when. But they will not give you that opportunity. Take that very, very seriously. The other thing that I picked is the whole issue of participation in parliament, county assemblies, and stuff like that. In my group, we were discussing this. The issue of awareness, the issue of public participation and stuff like that. Many things happen, but they don't know they are responding to issues, SDGs. Many are happening. In parliament, there are departmental committees, agriculture, water, whatever. But as a department or as a committee, they are talking about water, but they don't know what is that goal in the SDGs. They don't know. And when we're talking about awareness, they may not know. Some members of parliament might have not even heard about SDGs. But they are in a committee of the House. They are in a committee of parliament handling or oversighting departments. They are oversighting education. But they don't know that education is a goal. So what is it that we may need to do? And I think that's one of the recommendations that I think is very serious. That can we get all these departments and can we get parliament and county assemblies list, even when we are talking about a department of water, can we also say under it that this is goal 5 or this is goal 7 that you are dealing with as a departmental committee. I think that's what I can say at the moment. Thank you.
Please, Honorable.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. It's so good that we're having these dialogues, and I want to believe that going forward, there'll not be just dialogues and leave everything here. But let us take it as a challenge that going forward, we, the youth of this nation, will be holding leaders accountable. Because it is one thing to say you will do, and it is another to fulfill what you said you'll do. But again, if you do not put your leaders on toes, it will be a bed of roses to them. So unless we are there, as much as they're doing the oversight role, it is also your responsibility as a people, as a nation, to do social accountability. How do you do social accountability? Is you come together and have an agenda on what exactly you want to do. I want to ride on what Honorable Chan was saying, that some of these assemblies don't even know what the SDG goals are. Some of these members don't even know. You ask a member, what is your goal here? What are the areas of interest that you want to work on? And they have nothing. They don't know. So if you can have such members in the assemblies, then it means as a nation we are going back. We are not going forward. So it's time now we put our leaders accountable. We hold them accountable. We are I don't think there's any assembly that members are not allowed to go to the public gallery. There's room for you to go to the public gallery. Take time, purpose to attend to those galleries. Learn to have a time to listen to the conversations that are taking place in the assemblies. That is when now you'll come to know if they're addressing the issues that are directly affecting the people, or they are there just to address their issues. So feel free to come to the assemblies anytime. We as KMCA, we're here, we'll be here today and tomorrow. I'm happy to have been in the panel, and tomorrow I'll be again here to be in another panel. And I want to believe by the time we're leaving here, we'll be getting connections. Make sure by the time you're leaving here, you've made at least one connection. Get a contact on how best you can improve on one area that you feel like is. Have an area of interest. My area of interest is education. That's why I sit in the education committee. My area of interest is issues gender equality. That's why I sit in the gender committee. So have an area of interest and work towards realizing that that area of interest is taken care of by your leaders. Thank you so much, Kirsten.
I hope you all took something away from this session, and also that you appreciated this experiment that we did. This was a co-creation session. It's different than many of the panels you're going to see in the following days. So I hope you enjoyed that and took some inspiration from the format here as well. So I'm not going to keep you from lunch break, which is next. So all left from me to say is thank you so much to spending your day with us today. And I hope you'll be back for many more interesting sessions in the afternoon that Ruth will talk about now. But thank you so much from